Hello everybody, and welcome back. And thank you very much for joining me tonight. I have one of my very good friends, Chris Huff, who is not only a pioneer in the paranormal research, he is also a fellow witness. And we've had a little bit of a chat, but we've known each other quite a long time now, haven't we?
We have.
We have, and we've had a little bit of chat online, and we wanted to record and bring you in on the conversation because I think we're going to cover some points that many of you out there have asked me about, and we will even cover the beech nuts. And I did promise
beech
you
nuts.
The beech
I
nuts.
told you not to mention my nuts. Yes.
Other people, you'll be very shocked to know. You've heard me say about stones being thrown before and pine cones and things like that. And we'll talk about it more as we talk about your experiences. But there are a number of people out there who have had beech nuts, and they have found them in their hoods or in their pockets, or even in the car when they've got back. And I said, I will cover it because you're not on your own. Other people have experienced it too. And I have also had a thing with beech nuts where I've had them left on the step at home. But let's go back to the very early days. You are exactly the same as me. You were a young teen and you were just going about your normal young teen stuff. And things changed that day, didn't they?
Very well, yes. The first one is Loughton Camp, which is an Iron Age hill fort in the middle of the forest at Loughton in Essex. And I'd read in a book about a ghostly druidic procession which was supposed to go through. And me being me, grabbed one of my reluctant friends and said, come on, let's go and have a look. So we did. And when we got there, it's a hill fort. If you've been on a hill fort, there's not a lot there. It's a few banks and lots of trees and very uninspiring. But I've always wanted to be an archaeologist anyway, so I was getting enthusiastic and he was getting cold. And we just walked around until I thought, this looks a good area. Let's just have a sit and see if anything happens. And started getting hit with beech nuts. And I will say, actually, we started getting hit with things. And it wasn't exactly lots. We started off with one. Yeah. One. Handful.
Right.
Handful. So we thought, right, well, let's get out from underneath the beech trees.
Yeah.
So we walked away. Found, I think it was in a strand of silver birches or something, and it happened again. So we thought, hang on,
there's no beech trees.
Yeah, there's no beech trees here. Let's walk further around. Let's go getting closer to the path out, and we'll stop there because I was 13 at the time, something like that, and I was thinking. Yeah, I'm really interested in the paranormal, but this is a little bit much. So we got out to the on the edge of a Loughton camp and sat down for a little while. Just lights going. It's getting to dusk, and we're going to get out fairly soon anyway. And we got hit with beech nuts again. At which case, it's a case of bugger this for a game of cricket. We're off.
Yeah. You stayed longer than I would do.
So that's and I know it was beech nuts because when I got back in the Parker, you remember Parkers in the 70s? Everyone had in the hood. There was a couple of beech nuts, so I could prove what it was, and I kept one for years and years and years and years. So and I used to say, yeah, well, this is what was thrown at us, and everyone would always say, if I ever mentioned it, oh, you could have picked that up anywhere. So
you don't carry it around with you for all those years, do you?
No, but that's the very first experience, getting beech nuts thrown at me.
So you was always into the paranormal. Do you
Absolutely. A lot of
people will identify when they say, I don't know why I was interested. I just was. I was interested in either cryptic creatures, or I was interested in UFOs, or all of them. Some people are interested in all of them, and I don't know why. I just have this real need to learn about them, and that's kind of where I am at the moment. So, have you got a background in the paranormal, even as a small child?
Even as a small child, I was telling you that I saw my dead uncle when I was in my cot, and I still remember it. My father was a medium. My sister does psychometry.
Right.
My mother does astrology.
Yeah.
So it's a strong connection all over. One of my great aunts was a turn of the last century platform medium.
Right.
So there's this, this family connection comes through. One of the experiences when I was 5 has always stayed with me, in that we were down at Pevensey. I think it was Pevensey, which is on the southeast coast, right down. And we were going along in our little car up the seafront towards Hastings. And I looked out to sea, and there was a Viking longship. Sail was down, rowing. They were rowing against the tide and against the wind, and they were going faster than people could row.
Yeah.
And I pointed this out to everyone in the car, and nobody could see it. So I got the usual, don't be bloody stupid.
Yeah, don't be silly. Yeah.
Don't be bloody stupid. Yeah, stop making things up and blah, blah, blah. And in the end, you just stop telling people. So,
same for me. Exactly the same for me. You'd see something and you describe it and you get, stop being silly. Oh, she's away with a fae.
Yeah.
You know? But I would notice that maybe Mum had seen it and wasn't going to let on. And we would change the subject very quickly and talk about something else. So
now, the one thing about Loughton Camp, which I want to point out, up until maybe 20 years ago, even around then, I'd always described all these experiences I had in the forest, etc., as paranormal.
Yeah.
I thought this was some form of poltergeist activity.
I remember that, because when we first met, that's where you were, wasn't it?
That's right. In the 70s, who'd heard of cryptids?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I hadn't even seen the Patterson Gimlin film then. Yeah, no, I'd heard of the Yeti. We don't get Yetis. This is
no, exactly. Yeah. I'd never heard of the Woodloos either.
No.
No understanding of that. Any of that history that we have. I only found that out years later. When you say to people, especially Americans and Canadians, we didn't know about Bigfoot in the UK. Mm-hmm. It's quite a modern thing. It wasn't on the telly. I mean, I do remember watching some Arthur C. Clarke's, but it was more like the Crystal Skull and the Nazca lines. And
even that was 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and it was, wasn't it?
So when I was out in 1973, 1974, there was nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
The closest you got to this was reading Grimm's fairy tales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly that. That's it. There was nothing, was there? You're telling that the lass that's up in Stanley, she would have been 6. That was 74. Yep. And that was one of the things that stayed with her, because she said, I didn't have a name to put to it. I didn't know what to call it.
No. And it was, I ascribed it because we were actually looking into ghosts in the area. So put two and two together, you make 4. Or 3, as the case was. So, but I don't think it was paranormal now. I think it was actually a cryptid.
Yeah, but from what you've described, I would say the same. But as we've discussed tonight, there is the massive, massive possibility, and I am starting to lean that way, that these cryptids are not your flesh and blood ape in any way, shape or form. And what you're about to describe when you say, many people out there will understand, because they've had exactly the same experience. And they also have put it down to the paranormal. And it's only at looking at some of the sightings where they've gone, actually, that fits with what happened to me that day. I mean, it could be we're all experiencing the same phenomena and they appear as we would accept them, or if they're after fear, then they're going to scare the living daylight out of it. And that's what happened, isn't it? That's exactly what happened.
Well, they certainly did a good job at driving us off that evening.
Yeah.
But, excuse me, nothing like what happened not that long afterwards, which is the Lost Pond encounter, which you know about, and which is how we got to talking all those years ago, really.
It is. Hollow ponds.
No, not the hollow ponds.
Is it? No, I always mix it up. It is the Black Weight, and I always mix it up. Because I'm a northerner.
The Lost Pond is the proper name is Blackweir. but nobody local calls it Blackclear Pond. It's the Lost Pond. It's in the absolute middle of the forest. To get to it, I mean, I'll take it back one step. We used to do a lot of night fishing. As kids, me and my friends would go up into the forest ponds, didn't think a thing about it.
Yeah.
It's where the East End villains used to dump bodies. It's where perverts used to roam around. It's where all sorts of nasties happened. And we didn't think about it.
Yeah, no, you don't have kids, do you?
No, so 13, 14-year-olds straight into the forest, night fishing. All night long, didn't think about it. Except on one night, we decided we're going to go up to the Lost Pond because it was good carp fishing.
Yeah.
We used to, hang on, to get there, you go through the forest, down to Baldwin's Hill Pond, and then angle up through some landmarks that we knew and peculiar trees, and you ended up at the Lost Pond. You couldn't miss it if you knew where you were going.
Yeah.
So we get there, and it's about sort of 7 o'clock in the evening. You know, we've been to school, we've had something to eat, we've got all the gear ready, we've gone up. And we're sitting down, umbrellas are behind us, we're on this nice gravel bank, which goes about 10 foot behind us. So you've got room to cast. Yeah. Umbrellas behind us, bank sticks in the water, we're ready to go, floats are out, we're fishing away, no problem. Light goes, the torches go onto the floats. Yeah. So you can see what's happening. And we must have been sitting there for 3-4 hours. The light went about 10, 10:30. And Epping Forest at night was a really creepy place. If you've ever heard foxes, oh my, the vixens were going off on one, and they're terrible. And then all of a sudden a barn owl would start up as well. And you're thinking, oh my God, what's going on here?
Yeah, what's moving?
Yeah, and then bats coming across the pond. You know, you've just seen Dracula the night before, and this is getting you going. You know what it's like being a youngster.
Yeah, I was just going to say that kids everywhere across England have done exactly that. Whether it be night fishing or camping with your mates, or you know.
So we've done all this, and we're just sitting there, and we're nattering away, and we're having coffee out of the flask, and we're eating Marmite sandwiches, and just doing what we always did. And it must have got to around midnight or thereabouts. And then from absolutely nowhere, I do excuse this.
Like that.
And the last one was on the gravel right behind the umbrellas. And what I was thinking at the time, it was, oh, I've lost this. Hang on 1 second. Don't know what's happened here. That's it. I've got you back.
There you go.
It was, I thought it was someone like a man weighing about 30 stone had jumped on one leg down the bank towards us. Yeah. There's me and my friend, and at that point we're looking at each other thinking, oh, bank stick comes out the water. Metal bank stick, it's out, left hand, right hand, knife, sheath knife. My friend's got a bank stick and he's got the torch. And we go out behind there and we're going to do something. And there's nothing there.
Thinking it was like a pervert or something like that.
You didn't know what you were going to get. So, but you don't sort of just sit there and go, ooh. You go and take it on because whatever. There was absolutely nothing there, and I think that scared us even more.
Yeah, I understand that completely.
So we're out the back, and we must, it felt like it was half an hour we were looking around, but I guarantee it was about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
At which point we looked at each other again, and without saying a word, we wheeled everything in, put it all together, threw everything together, and I'm sure we left half the stuff up there.
Yeah, and just got.
And with the torches on, we started making our way back, going past this and this and this and this.
In the dark, which is hard when you're a kid.
It was pitch black. Apart from the little bit of light, the old torches in the 70s. They weren't brilliant.
No,
they weren't. They were yellow. They weren't white. They were yellow.
They were. Like Edison
We're going back, and then my torch failed. No reason. And then my friend's torch failed. And we're halfway between the Lost Pond and Baldwin's Hill Pond at the far end, you know, the top
Yeah.
end of Baldwin's Hill, where you hit the track to come out. And we're getting really frightened because there is a feeling now that something is following.
Yeah.
Didn't hear anything, didn't see anything. Something was following.
Yeah.
And then there was this feeling as we're walking through, there was this feeling like something was trying to rush us all the time. But it
Yeah.
wasn't just one, because it felt like they were coming from two sides.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's sort of rushing. And I had this overwhelming impression that they were trying to split us up.
To divide and conquer.
To divide, yeah? Anyway, getting back to this, we sort of followed all the markers coming down to what we called the boobs, which was two clay lumps. 14-year-old boys, their boobs.
Yeah.
we hit the boobs. From the boobs, it's about 75 yards in a straight line to the path. Top of the Baldwin's Hill Pond, straight line. The next thing I know, we've walked on and we've gone splosh. And we've actually gone into the other end of Baldwin's Hill Pond.
So you're in a completely different area.
Completely different area. Now, I said I wasn't going to mention it, but I will, because
you don't have
it doesn't
to.
make sense. No, otherwise it doesn't make sense. Because between the boobs and the top end of Baldwin's Hill Pond, or the bottom end when it was all boggy, there's half an hour missing. And I can't account for it. But we're 75 yards off the path, and then all of a sudden we're a long way back into the forest, and we can't account for how we got there. And that's the second encounter, and that was, as you know, that really screwed me up for years.
Yeah.
I still won't go into woodland at night. Yeah. Because of it. It was terrifying. And when people always say, "Oh, these are fluffy bunnikins and they don't mean you any harm and they're all nature spirits," well, you should have been there that night, because this was hostile.
I'm at fault for that, because for a very long time, and I have said this to you myself, and for a very long time, I have said, "Oh, you're absolutely fine. There's no attacks. There's nothing like that. You're absolutely fine." And it's not what I'm finding. I'm finding lots of very frightened people, and they've got very good reason to be frightened.
Yeah.
And I said that I honestly think that part of that with me is because it made it easier for me. And I think I was in the wrong there, and I should not have done that. And I don't mind saying that on camera, because I'll always admit when
based upon personal experience.
Yes. And I think that I have met people who have had, myself included, the same missing time, the same being in a completely area. As I said to you, I don't remember parts of running home. Mm-hmm. I remember an incident of coming to and thinking, I'm not going that way. But other than that, I don't actually remember the 3 mile that I ran. Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm thinking there's going to be so many witnesses out there that I know who are listening to this going, that is exactly what it was like for me. They have missing time periods. They get lost in areas they know like the back of the hand. Mm-hmm. They come to in separate areas. I said to my husband himself, there was 4 of them, and they came to this way, feet to feet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And the fear was not the light. It was what happened in the missing time. So
because you can't account for it.
Yeah. So it's my husband has the same fear.
I will also say that all the time that we were walking down to the boobs, it was terrifying that we were being herded.
Chased out of there. Yeah, I know.
When we went splosh into the bottom end of Baldwin's Hill Pond, that had all gone.
Yeah.
It felt fine. You know, and
incident over. Sudden,
yeah. But there's that time missing, and I can't account for it. And unlike you, I don't want to be regressed.
No, I know.
I don't
know. I know that. It's not for everybody, I know.
No.
But it's more than that for me, because you have memories of your past lives. I think that I might have memories of past lives, and I'm hoping, especially those I only speak to my friends about the things I saw in my bedroom as a kid, and you know all about them. But I would like to go back and look at them as a spectator.
Mm.
Because I'll always carry that fear with me, that from being a little child and seeing them. I don't like when the sun's going down, because I remember being small in my bed, and you know what a windowsill is. I don't know if the southerners do, but that bit of wood on your windowsill. I knew that when the last rays of the sun hit the windowsill, then they would come out of the walls. And you're trying to describe that to parents when you're a toddler, because I know I was a toddler because I know the year that my sister was born, and we weren't in that property yet. We were in the very first flat that we ever lived in. So I would have been about 3 or 4. So my parents thought I was being naughty. I didn't want to go to sleep. I couldn't go to sleep because there was things crawling all over my room and everything. And I couldn't tell my sister because she was my older sister, and I looked up to her and I didn't want her to think that I was silly. And her main thing was, she used to say, don't go to sleep, because when you go to sleep, the night's over. She used to like to stay up as long as she could. And it was the absolute opposite of what I wanted to do, because I knew when she only stayed, she's my stepsister, so my dad's been married twice. So she only stayed with us like weekends and occasions. So there was lots of lonely nights on my own in that room. And my sister was born when I was 7, almost 8. And then we shared a room by that point. Probably maybe older, because she would have been in with my mum and dad for a while, and we'd moved to the new property. But I can remember the bedspread I on. It was a candle wick. Do you remember the old candle wick bedspreads? I can still feel it. And that was how I'd get myself out of it. I used to somehow shrink right down, so I was really, 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 really small, and it'd stop. And then I always slept with one eye open. You know, hence sending me to the clinic and all that silly stuff. But did you sleep as a child? Were you in a decent child sleeping routine, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Except for the nightmares.
Well, yeah, exactly. What they call night terrors, but are completely real. Absolutely,
not like
real.
yours of things walking around the room. All right, I could feel there were people walking around, but not often.
Yeah.
The worst nightmare I remember there's 2 actually. As a child, there's 2. Occurred on 3 consecutive nights, where in my dream I went to the toilet, out of my bedroom into the toilet, which was just about next door, and there was a great fat nun,
right,
in the brown habit, sitting on the toilet, and she was saying, "You have to marry me."
Oh.
And that was terrifying me.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine so.
You have to marry, and then I'd wake up.
Yeah.
That went on for 3 nights, and then that stopped.
Right.
But the worst one, now this really was bad was me and my sister. Now, my sister must have been about 3 in the dream, and I must have been about 7. And we were looking for our parents. And we went into the entrance of this really grand house. And I remember the stairs went up the center and then spread around the top in a gallery.
I know what you mean, yeah.
And it was sort of a very white staircase.
Yeah.
The floor was black and white tiles.
Yeah, marble. Yeah.
It really sort of Victorian. And then we were wandering around trying to find my parents, and we wandered off into the kitchen, and there were all these knives lying around. And then all of a sudden, we started getting clips hitting us.
Right.
And there was blood coming down from the sink. And then we started getting chased through this. It was a really horrible dream. Really, really. That happened about 5 times.
Oh, that's awful, isn't it? You wake up with the feeling, don't you? Like the feeling.
Yeah, and it just doesn't leave you. So they were the only ones which I really had as a child. Nothing like you walking around the room.
No,
Anyway, shall we get back to cryptids?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it all ties in all honesty. You know me, I think it's all leading to the same place. Because then there's the one that I can't pronounce, which is Amesbury.
Very good.
Only because I wrote it down as Amesbury.
It's not Ambrosbury, it's
Well,
Amesbury.
no, it's spelled. When you look
Amesbury.
where I am, it's Ambersbury Banks.
It's
Yeah.
close enough. Anyway,
Explain it to me. I don't know, and I know a little bit about Epping because of Boudica and the barrows there and things like that. And I obviously know that it's a place that has a lot of paranormal activity.
What? I didn't know that. I really
Lots
did.
Of, yeah,
we used to go there because it was easy to get to in the car, because you could just pull off the Epping Road. Amesbury Banks is between the Wake Arms roundabout and Epping.
Yeah.
And you used to be able to pull off into this little lay-by, and you could go into these massive banks and ditches, and you could just walk around, and it was a hill fort. Lovely hill fort. As I said, I was always into archaeology. My poor parents, how they coped with me, I don't know. I was always saying, can we go to a museum? Can we go and see a castle? Can we this? Can we that?
I love
I was a real prima donna. Terrible. How they cope, I just don't know. Well, I still am. Never mind. Anyway, we had our dog with us. Now, he was a Springer Spaniel Border Collie cross. He's not a little dog. He's not a big dog.
Yeah.
Left to his own devices, he'd hair off, do a big circle, come all the way back, see that we're here, do it again. Yeah. And that's what he'd always do. He'd just run off, go smelling everything. So to start with, we're at the roadside part of the hill fort, and he's doing his running around everything else. Me being me, right, let's go and have a look at the other side. Right through the forest, let's go and have a look. The dog comes with me. We get to about halfway across the hill fort. It's not a big one, not really. It's completely in the forest. You can't really see the road from halfway, it's just trees. But the trees aren't big. And the further to the back you get, the smaller they get. So they're getting down to about 80 to a foot diameter trees.
Yeah.
The dog by now has got his nose in the back of my knee, and he won't leave me. So I'm sort of thinking, well, I wonder if there's any ghosts. That would be interesting. Later on, I do a bit of reading, and you find out it's supposed to have the ghost of Boudica there. Absolute rubbish, complete tosh. You find out these things. He's got his nose in there. I'm still thinking, I want to see the end. I want to go and find the ditches. So he's following me. He's tripping me up. Yeah. He's actually tripping me up. He just wouldn't get away from me. And then from behind me, in the leaves, I can hear shh, 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 as I'm walking. And I'm thinking, hang on, is that me? So I stop.
Yeah, and it stopped.
And it's gone shh, another step. So you look around.
Yeah.
There's nothing. The trees are so small, you can't hide behind them.
Exactly, yeah.
You can't, there's no bushes down below, so you can't lay down and hide.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. Cover. Yeah. Nothing. So I thought imagination or some weird echo, or off we go again. And then I've sort of taken a couple of steps, and then shh, 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 behind, and I'm hearing this and thinking, hang on, this is silly. No, can't be me. So I stop dead. And then, shh, shh. And I look around again, nothing. The dog is absolutely freaking.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it. His tail's down, his head's down, he's right down like this. He's not leaving me. And at that point, I sort of say, something's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm buggering off back. And as soon as we get towards the road, dog's fine. He's off again.
Yeah.
But it was that one area of Amesbury Banks. So I put it down again. Ghosts, poltergeist, paranormal. So that's the third experience I had. It's terrible, isn't it? That, people are going to say, oh, he's making all this up, and oh, rubbish. But it just kept happening.
That's why I wanted to speak to you, because for many of them, and I would say at least 90% of them, when I speak to them about the experience and what happened that day, I will normally say, I'll let them get it all out, and then I'll say, has anything else ever happened in your life? And they'll have these reoccurring events, sometimes with extraterrestrial, with lights in the sky, with the paranormal, sensitive people who are very sensitive and pick up on energy. Maybe they're empaths or they work with energy in some way. And they seem to have these, like I say, reoccurring events. Now, for me, it's always been creature based. And as you said, I've never seen spirit until I went to Clitheroe Castle about 3 months ago. And that's the first time I've ever actually seen, other than family members, but I don't suppose that counts. Actual somebody else spirit wise, I saw a couple in the castle and I knew everything about them and I knew what the job was and I knew what they did and I knew that they were watching the children because there was a children's treasure map around the thing and they were just quite happily watching the kids go around the place. And that's the first time I've ever seen spirit. But I have had reoccurring events in my life, the crunching, the being followed, the knowing that if I take another step, I am going to see something or something's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And I need to turn my little legs around and get myself out of there. It saved me more times. And people say, well, how do you know it saved you? You don't know what was around the corner.
Because you just know. Yeah.
I knew that if I walked down that car park, that something would get me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I put it down to like a pervert or a dodgy man or something. But when I think back on it now, it was the level of fear that wouldn't come with that for me. As a kid, if somebody had flashed me, I'd have just laughed at it. I'd have been like, is that it? Is that all you've got? I was that kind of kid.
That reminds me of...
Oh, give us your man card. I was a cheeky kid, right? I would have said something like that. It was a fear on the same level as seeing him that day. And I said to you today, didn't I, that I never, ever, ever say online that I think that I knew something was there before I saw it. And I think that's why I looked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I want to be regressed. I want to get taken back to that day to see all of the picture. Because I know that I'm not being given all of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound a bit cryptic?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's just something I wouldn't do. I don't want to.
I know.
Literally, I don't want to know.
If it goes pear-shaped, I'm trying to think of a word you could use there that wasn't swearing. If it goes pear-shaped, I've only got myself to blame. But I trust Simon, and I know I'm going to be fine. And it might not happen. I might be one of those people that you can't regress, because there are people like that, aren't there?
He can also put a suggestion in that it can't hurt you. So don't worry. Yeah, just tell us what
that's what he said he'll do. He'll do it from a non-stance, like a non-fear. And I'm hoping I come away from it with less fear than I have going into it. But it's something I want to learn myself, and I feel very passionate about it. It's been on my mind for a while, and I keep thinking I want to learn how to do it so I can help the witnesses, the ones that want to do it. I know Karen in Stanley wants to do it, and there's a few of them. And I thought maybe that's something I could do to help them, and like another level of helping them, and it might unlock some clues, because I'm like you, I'm just after answers. It doesn't matter what the answers are, I just want
all I've got are questions.
Yeah,
all I've got are questions.
That's me. And it's just every time I think I've got a handle on it, why is that? 1 second, I've got to plug. You'll have to excuse me, I've got to plug my laptop in, or we're about to have a complete...
Oh, we're frozen. You have completely frozen.
I need you to get...
You're back. You're back.
I know I'm back, but my power's going, Chris. I don't know what... They put my new desk in for me today and I can't get to me. The power's going. I'm going to run out and I'm mid-record.
Hold on, yeah.
Yeah. Let me move my chair. I need you to get down there.
Quick, panic.
No,
panic.
Come on.
All right, Jesus.
My phone's going to go. Bear with me, people. I'll be back in 1 minute, I promise.
That's plugged in down.
I know. Oh. Are you still there, Chris?
I'm still here.
I know,
I'm just being quiet.
I don't know why. My power's going on my phone. Just 1 second. I'm just going to turn my settings off and find a way. Oh, Lord. It's never done this before, to be honest.
Yeah, but you're talking to me now, so.
Yeah, I think that might be it. I think I might be having technical difficulties because of you. Right, the absolute worst comes to the worst. I will stop the interview and I will pick up on a part 2 so we don't lose you. Are you there? You still?
I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm having, for some strange reason, I've never had this problem, ever.
No, I can get this to the plug and then.
Will you do that and I'll carry on going? I'm really I'm in the wheelchair. I can't. Where do you need
Hey,
me?
poor sod. You just got him running around ragged.
I know. It's a darling. It really is. I think it's because I got it going through my laptop. I need to plug it into the proper charger. And then we might be okay. There we go. Yeah, you do that one for me. Right, that might help. Right, I can. We're off. I've done it. Thank God. Thank you, sweetheart. Oh, I've just run him over.
Oh,
Oh, it's dead professional in our house, isn't it?
Top up.
Yeah, please. It's dead professional in our house, isn't it, Mark?
right. So
Hope
crisis
that'll stay
over.
good. Yeah. If I suddenly drop out of everywhere, it's because my phone's died. I will grab Mark's phone and I'll phone you back on Skype and we will finish it that way because we've not even touched on everything yet. So where did we get to before I'd
Well, we've done Amesbury Banks.
Right.
So the next one of the cryptids. I'm not going to go down to the paranormals. Not on this.
Yeah.
The next cryptids is up here near me in County Durham, and I'm not giving locations away.
No, you don't have to.
Just in case. I don't want bounty hunters going in and disturbing and being idiots. So
yeah, I get you.
But I was doing a nice walk around, taking images of arches. I'm an arch freak. I love them.
Yeah.
I'm an absolute arch freak. I don't give a damn about these structures so much, but arches, wow,
Yeah.
love
There's
them.
something about them, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. So we're walking around this little part where I've had feelings in the past, and sometimes it's been good, and sometimes it's been not so good, and sometimes I've got to the edge and said, I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
And this is all on one of my videos, so
Yeah.
it's all
I
documented.
can share it actually in the description.
Right. And I get to a point, and I'm looking out across the stream into what is a coniferous part, and it's so dense you can't get into it. And from almost ahead of me, does that come out? Yeah. And then I'm thinking, what was that? And it does it again.
Yeah.
And all the time it's starting to move from left to right in front of me.
Yeah. I get you. Yeah.
And it's only ever that.
Yeah.
And it's exactly that sound. And it's on the video. You can hear it clearly. And I was thinking, can that be somebody in there doing something? There's nothing visible at all, nothing. Yeah. But it goes right across. It must have gone about 100 yards across. And it gets to the end of where the woodland bit is. And that's it. There's no more.
Stop.
Just stop. I didn't see anything. I didn't smell anything. I didn't hear anything apart from just that. And it was like something was just talking to others with saying either there's somebody here, watch out, or this is where I am. Come with me, come with me. There was no knocks. There was no whoops. There was nothing. So that was that encounter, which left me a bit speechless, to tell you the truth, because it can't be accounted for. But by this time, I know about cryptids, and I'm thinking, oh, that's interesting. So we come out of there, and a couple of days later, we're on the railway line, which I've told you about the railway line, and there's a couple of my videos on this. And we're walking along there, and we get to a point where I found a footprint in the grass in the past. And it's got a blackberry bush in, and we always go and gather the blackberries there. So I was talking to some woman with her dogs, because I always make a fuss of dogs, even though I'm allergic to them.
My Mark does the same.
Can't help it. Judith is standing to one side, and all of a sudden, somebody unseen comes up and whispers in her ear, "Hello,"
Oh,
and there's no one
Yeah.
there. And she didn't tell me until we actually got back, and she was very quiet until we got back.
yeah,
But it's all just hello.
yeah.
So that this whole area is quite interesting, and that brings us on to the next bit, which is what I call Area 2.
Does it sound like this?
Sorry?
Does it sound like this?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
Like-
heard it, and
like-
many of the others have heard
like
it.
two stones.
Yeah, just-
Yeah, did it?
Yeah.
It really, and it was about that fast.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I've
so
heard it
interesting,
myself.
but it wasn't very loud. It, but the camera picked it up. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to say I've actually got it. Anyway, that's Area 1, which is very interesting.
Mm.
On our way out from that as well, which I forgot, we were finding all sorts of bits, but there was also like a forked branch. The branch
Upside
came
down like a wine.
like that, yeah. No,
Yeah.
not a fork, like a
Right.
fork branch
Right,
that had been hung in a tree.
I get you. Yeah.
So, but it was only about 5 foot up. It wasn't way up, but
Yeah,
it wasn't
so like
wasn't
this.
from that tree. Yeah, it was just hanging over. Wasn't
Mm.
from that tree because it was a piece of dogwood. You
Yeah.
know, with the thorns, and
Yeah,
it's
I get
hanging
you,
up,
yeah.
hanging down. It was so visible, and there was no way. Who in their right mind would put this in a tree?
Yeah, and why? Yeah, why would they
Why?
do that?
So, but I'm finding this. This is what interests me. When, yeah, you can go through all these sort of wild camping structures,
Yeah,
but they don't make arches. They don't make leaning
No.
sticks.
no, they don't.
Don't do
They
fork
don't make the
sticks.
arches. No, no.
So-
And it's not foragers. It's not something foragers would do either.
And then where we get what I call the sun wheels, with the 6-pointed
Yeah.
stars.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they interest me.
I'm
the
getting
pinwheels.
those as well,
Yeah, a lot. You get those a lot of those.
Yeah.
Haven't you?
and I can't understand those either. But anyway,
No,
that's
I can't understand those. They're one of the ones where I say 99% of what you find is useless. But these pinwheels, there is no accounting for
No.
them. And all the sticks are different. As if, I wonder if they're like cairns in some way.
I
Not
just
in the
don't
way
know.
I used to think that each one left a stick. But I'm wondering if it's more to do with energy. In the same way that a cairn structure, the energy will be higher at the top than it is at the bottom. Kind of concentrates the earth energy. And I wonder if the arches are kind of tapping in like a battery. And that's why the end is normally wedged. I just don't know. It's one of the things that I think may be going on with the arches. I'm not 100%, but these bloody pinwheels, we can't explain them away. The geocaches are not leaving them.
No.
It's not like we're finding one or two. We're finding them everywhere, and people are finding them. And it's not really something people's talking about online. So for years, I've seen them coming in from separate areas with researchers that don't know about each other, and nobody's had the conversation. So it's not like they're copying.
No, that's
But
right.
most medicine, they look like Native American medicine wheels.
Yeah,
You know.
like a dream catcher.
Yeah, exactly like, yeah.
So,
I've seen them myself. I've got a big album of them. People have sent them from all across the UK, and just don't know why. I just don't know why.
but they're deliberate.
Yeah, they are definitely.
They cannot.
They are
They're
deliberate.
usually of different sticks. They're not often of the tree that's nearby.
Yeah,
They're brought
that's
in.
it.
The sticks are usually around about the same size.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't understand.
No, I don't understand. And
Also, what we're getting in this area that I'm talking about, Area 1, we're getting a lot of peeled sticks, which are leaned into the trees.
Yeah.
And now, nobody's going to do this if they're just wild camping and they put a stick in the tree just to, that might be useful.
Yeah.
You're not going to meticulously peel it and
no, this
You know,
is
leave
very
it.
smooth,
It's
aren't they?
appealing.
Yeah, almost
and then placed.
burnished.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So it's just so odd. But
I've got one at home downstairs. I
Mhm.
actually brought it home with me, and the wood is very, very white. I think it's hollow.
Mhm.
It's very, very white. And do you remember years ago, before they used wax or linseed oil, they would burnish like the
That's
top
right,
of the
yeah.
metal, and it kind of, as you squash the wood, the natural oils come out.
Yeah.
It's like that, and it's it's clearly been a tree at some point, but it isn't no longer. And I must have had it 8 years. There's no sign of rot on it or anything. It's like this self-protected tree. And I wonder if the whiteness, and so it stands out in dim light. So maybe it's a marker, because some people say
I just always think it feels nice.
Yeah, very tactile. Yeah, exactly that.
It feels nice. It's usable rather than rough and horrible.
Yeah,
it becomes
as
more
if it's been
usable.
handled, yeah.
Whether these are levering sticks or digging sticks or improvised spears,
an important tool.
Yeah.
It could be grounding sticks. That's one.
Anything. We can make up 1,001 reasons, and everyone could be wrong.
Yeah, exactly that. That's it. I think people think I have the answer, and I'm just a witness, the same as everybody else. I don't have all these answers that are out there. I might have studied Bigfoot and cryptids and all of that, and what goes on in America and Canada and Russia. They still don't have any answers, because nobody seems. They have the theories for it, and that's great. And theories lead you on to things, but nobody knows. We haven't got a clue. So instead of arguing about it, as they do in the Facebook groups and everything else, I just think, well, that's one aspect of it, like one colour of the spectrum, but there's still all of this going on that needs investigating.
You've got to keep your eyes open.
You've got
to say, I'm not just interested in this. What else is going on?
Yeah, that's where I am. That's how I feel.
Oh, that's what you see. That's something. The brains worked again, and another details come in from all these experiences. Whenever something silly's happened, I just call it something silly's happened.
Yeah.
The forest goes silent.
Yeah, exactly.
Silent.
Yeah, completely silent.
Up until that, it's like Amesbury Banks. Up until that point, we're walking across this forested, leafy, God knows what, and there's squirrels around, and you've got the burrowing and wood pigeons doing in the trees. And as soon as we got to the far point where the dog was playing up, dead silent, absolutely like the grave, dead silent. And that was probably more disturbing than anything else.
Yeah, it's almost like a shift in atmosphere.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. To me, it kind of tickles the back of my neck. I get this tickle on the back of my neck. It's like I can feel the energy, and it is completely silent. And that's normally when I get the feeling to leave. When I know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, the dog was telling me get out of here, so so you just do as you're told. Anyway, so that was area 1. Now, since then, I've been looking around in other parts around here, and what has amazed me is that you get concentrations of activity. And it's only in a small area within a larger wood, and then the rest of the wood is just almost nothing, like a desert, with a big concentration.
And what is it about that little area?
I was wandering around all these little, if you've looked on the map of my area, it's little ribbon woodlands leading to bigger woodlands, leading to railway lines, leading to this, that, and the other. So I went to another one, not thinking I was going to see anything, but we'll check it out. And the first thing that happened as we walked along this old, not too used path, but you could see it was still used because there were fresh dog paw prints and welly boot prints in the mud. So it's fairly well used, but not like the main paths. And this is the video I sent you fairly recently, linked to, in and amongst a load of old badger holes. And I was warning Judith, careful where you tread because there's holes. Actually, this is because of you and your accident that you had that I warn everyone, don't put your feet down these holes.
Yeah, exactly that,
So watching it, and then as I did that, I walked over and I looked down this one hole, and in the middle of this old badger hole, there is a splat, a diarrhea splat. And it's an old disused badger run, so it's not badgers. And it's right in the middle of this path going through, and I'm thinking, well, no human's going to drop their kecks in the middle of this path
where
you've got bushes 5 feet away where you can just, like you would, you'd go behind the bush and hey. This is in the middle of the path, this splat. Now the splat is about 7 or 8 inches across, so it's not a small animal.
No.
And then I started thinking, what animal is going to crouch over a disused badger hole in the ground where there's a possibility of something coming up and attacking it from beneath.
Those humans.
And I'm thinking, nothing's going to do that.
No.
It's not a wild animal thing. So there's no badgers living in it to account for it. Wild animals aren't going to do it, and humans certainly wouldn't on a pathway out in the middle of everywhere. So I'm just trying to think, well, what on earth's done it? And I can't give you an answer.
No, that's
Except
it's an anomaly, isn't it? And it might be that somebody else is going to say, I've seen that, or I've noticed that. And it's these anomalies that kind of clue us into things. If we're saying that they live like a wild, when I say wild human, it's the wrong word. But if we were wild back when we had our total, all of our abilities that kept us alive, it might have been something that we would do. And
a sort of marking, something like a track marking,
I was thinking,
or a boundary marking or something.
Yeah, of some kind. It might just mean bears will do that. Big cat do that, don't they?
But not over a hole in the ground.
No, not over a hole.
I've never seen anything like this.
See, not only is the paranormal reports at Epping, you've also got the reports of the howls, the growls, the snarls.
Which we're going to get on to in a little while.
Yeah, and then there's been some horse attacks. Before people instantly jump to cats, when a cat goes for an animal, it normally goes here or here.
Yeah.
These are on the back flank of the animal, and they go down, not this way, down the side of the animal. And there's been a number of horses that have been marked in that way. And I don't know anything that would A, attempt to take a horse, or B, go at it not at the jugular point. Mm-hmm. And you just think, I think there's areas in Epping, and I'm sure you'll agree, where the energy is very dark.
I've walked around. I mean, we're going back there again into the forest. I've walked around there. There's a couple of very bad areas. One's at the Wake Arms, near the Wake Arms roundabout. Another one's near the Robin Hood roundabout, which is more into Epping, into Loughton. The feeling around these places is you just don't want to be there. And you're walking around in the middle of the day and you're thinking, I wouldn't want to be here at night.
Yeah.
And that's the only way of putting it. I wouldn't want to be here at night.
We have got researchers out there who've the same kind of feeling that there's areas there that you don't want to be at night, because it's just, as you said, there's all kinds of these gangsters, these murders. Yeah. We had a guy not too long ago stumbled into a crime scene. He was out one night, head torch goes, trying to find his batteries. He looks up and his crime scene tape everywhere.
Yeah.
It's that kind of place, Epping, isn't it? It did sound like there was a gunshot on the audio that you left out there. This is boom. Yeah. Not the thud that you mentioned. I meant to say at the time, other people mentioned the thud, and they call it the thud.
The thud.
If it's going, and it gets closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you feel it on the as well.
Yeah, you feel it. It went through me. It was really heavy.
Yeah, the thud that gets mentioned all across the world by paranormal and cryptid alike, where this thud that moves the ground and you feel it within inside yourself. And it was very menacing. I'm going to be honest. What happened to you was menacing. For me, it was a thing there, and I was able to run from it. With you, it was coming for you. It's hard for me to say that, being such a champion of them, but that's what it sounded like.
Not only that, it was between us and getting away from the pond.
Yes,
we actually had to go through it.
Yeah, I've looked on Google Earth, and you've got the what we call the marina up here. It looks like the marina. So you've got the thing, and then you've got the gravel bank, and then it's just black forest.
Just forest.
At the back of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to pass it to get out. Yeah, and quite a few of them will recognise that as well. Do you remember we talked before about that, where they circumvent you?
Yeah.
So you kind of walk in and they circumvent you and they're right behind you, you don't even realise it. It's as quick as that for them.
Yeah.
How are we hearing, smelling, feeling, but not seeing them?
Yeah. I mean, smelling is another thing. Baldwin's Hill, I said when we went splodge into the end of Baldwin's Hill Pond, everything felt fine. Well, in that area before, I've actually smelt wet dog, come, dead dog, come, sewage farm, come.
Okay.
Do you remember the smell of the old burning Bakelite radios?
Yeah. We got
All
it
all those smells in one.
Yeah, when they're burning for carbide as well, like that.
We started looking for a dead dog, and it just got worse and worse and more, and it really hit the back of the throat, and it was just horrible. Couldn't find anything, and then the smell just went.
Just went.
But that's in this same area of the sort of all this part of Epping Forest. Now that, where I was saying a little while ago about this railway line that we've got, twice I've had that smell.
Along the railway line.
Yeah, the railway line we've got has not got high banks.
Right.
It's just flat.
Yeah.
And then trees go along the edges of it. Little ribbon forested bits opening out into bigger ones, yeah. And then on one of the larger bits, there's been this smell of dead dog and Bakelite radio and
it's a smell that you can't describe. I haven't smelt it to do with the cryptids, but I've heard it described enough. And almost usually they'll say it's like this sewagey dog type, horse type, animalistic smell. It's all kind of mixed up.
Wet dog. It's got that. There's wet dog, but it's more. There's something which is quite revolting, really musty.
How you would imagine that Sarnie Bean smell? That's how I always think of it. You remember Sarnie Bean in the cave and the dead body?
Yeah, it's a disgusting smell.
Like
it really is. It's musty. It's sort of like mouldy. It catches in your throat and catches in your nose, and then it's gone as quick as that. It's gone.
Like you said about the noise, the way the noise goes, just like that,
and
it just goes. The atmosphere completely whips around. And I've had experiences where the older dog, I've not got him now. I mean, we didn't get on very well, me and the dog, but he protected me. He's Mark's dog. He was only prepared to have one master. And but he would put himself between me and anything that he thought was a threat. So he saved me life, but he just preferred Mark. Mark's he's like you, he's dead soft with him, and he's, and he's giddy, and so the dog preferred him. But he actually at one point lay down on his belly, and I've never seen him do that. He's not scared of anything, never been scared of anything. And he lay down on his belly, and he made a funny noise, really low down. And it's this one part of the wood where I still won't go to this day. It's only a small, little tiny piece of woodland, but it has this feeling that I cannot describe, and I can't go through it. I can't walk, even in the daytime, even now, even if I was with him, I can't walk through it. I'm just terrified of that one little area. But the dog picked up on it, and that scared me more. Because with me, you could think it's something I'm picking up, but the dog definitely picked on it, and whatever he picked up on was a threat to him.
Yeah. Can I take you back to something which was reported to me rather than happened to me?
Yeah.
I was Woodall Spa, which is an old airfield in Lincolnshire, and it's now Ostler's Plantation.
Right.
The dispersals and the bomb stores are in this wood, and it would suit you because there's paths going through it, no problem. You could get your motorized chair in, everything. Yeah. My friend got a chap called Glenn got in touch with me, and this was back in 2013. Knowing that I was interested in airfields, I had a website going and everything at the time, and he said, "Look, I had this experience. Would you like to come down and I'll show you the area and tell you what happened?" So we went there and went through Ostler's Plantation. He races huskies. He's got a sled, and he's got 2 huskies, or rather he's got 6 huskies, but he uses 2 at a time. Yeah. And he races them through of a late evening with these huge lights on. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, wow. The dogs are wonderful. They're gorgeous. So we go there and we're walking down, and he said, "Well, this is where this happened." And then he described it. He was herring down this track, and it's gravelled bottom track. It's not anything, you know, not grass, bog, anything, gravel bottomed. And all of a sudden, the female dog, because he had a male and a female running in pair, Mika, collapsed.
Oh.
As they passed this tree in the centre, she sort of collapsed onto the ground. The sled veered off.
Yeah.
Glenn was thrown out. When he sort of looks up, the next thing he sees is Mika is on the ground, whining and howling as though something is attacking her.
You know. Yeah.
He can't see a thing.
Yeah. But she
Then,
can.
and Blaze, who's the male, attacks. Not Mika, but something
Yeah.
that Glenn can't see.
Yeah.
At which point, Glenn says Blaze is looking up 8 foot into the tree, up, and he's growling and his hackles are up, and he's really threatening this that Glenn can't see.
That's up there,
Yeah. So Glenn gets everything sorted out, gets the dogs moving eventually and off. That's part one of this. So I think that's one of our cryptids.
Yeah.
Now, Glenn, on another occasion, got one of his friends, a woman who also races huskies, to go along this track and give it a try and see if she got on with it and what it was like. And she went past this part, no problem. And she got just a little bit further on at the edge of where one of the World War II dispersals was.
Right.
And she went all the way around, came back, and Glenn was saying, "How did you find it? Was it all right? Did you find it fun?" She's like, "Yeah, it was good, except for the man in the brown overalls that she saw next to the old dispersals."
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about a World War II flyer in an old Sigcot suit.
Yeah.
So we did an investigation there, and all sorts of things happened. I'm not going to go into that. Walking around, Glenn said, down this old pathway which isn't used, it's just a clearance between the trees, he doesn't like the area. So me being me, I said, right, come on then, let's go and have a look.
Yeah.
So I did. And then in spirit, I have to say that because although I see them clearly, it's in spirit, not an apparition. A highwayman, all muffled up, steps straight out of the trees in front of us, threatens, then goes back in.
Right.
And Glenn's, now I knew what I was dealing with, and I was saying to Glenn, "What did you actually see?" And he said, "Well, it was sort of black, like it had a long black cloak on, and couldn't remember much more because he said I just got out of there."
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that one in because what you were saying about dogs and smells and odd feelings.
That sounds very canine to me. That attack.
Yeah, nasty.
I think we might be dealing with one of the canine creatures there.
Very
because
nasty.
people have this impression that it's just the wild man that will fly up a tree. That is not. They will use whatever they can to their advantage, and they are a bit sneaky, the canine ones. So you need to watch them. They're very trickery. They'll play you at your own game and get you confused. And if they want to, if they're deciding that you're the person that they're going to play with that day. And in all, I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say that could have been a meal. In all honesty, that type of, like we were talking about before, the being able to, the animals can see it. The animals know that it's there. It's just us that can't see it. We're blind to it. I think certain people can pick up on them, and they're having these extended little experiences. As he accepts each one, then it ramps up, and he accepts each one, and it ramps up more. And it's similar to mine in your life. And there's loads of people out there having it. We will be talking about the same thing. Some people call it the glimmer man. So it's always moving like Predator. This moving energy, and you can feel it. On some occasions, you can feel it rush past you really, really quickly. And same again, some people have very positive experiences with it, but some people have really negative experiences with it. They have the lead-in where they led off into the woods and they become lost.
Yeah.
Almost like we'd call the old-fashioned, we'd say about the fae or the fairy lights, where people.
Well, it's exactly the same as the will-o'-the-wisp, isn't it?
Yeah, where it leads you further and further and further until you become lost and you're confused. And people have heard the names, their own names called, mimicking animals,
Yeah.
people, chattering speech, all things that you could tie to the cryptids and say that is definitely cryptid behaviour. Understandable why it gets reported to the paranormal world, because it's people don't understand it. Even I don't understand it. In all the years I've been at it, I don't understand it. So I think there's lots and lots of accounts out there that we've missed because they've gone to the, especially like the Screaming Woods and all of that.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, it's just nice to be able to speak to someone who's said it's not just been a one-off for me, it's been a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's, in all honesty, you wouldn't be the investigator you are today if it hadn't happened. You probably already would have been in the field, but I don't think you'd have had the empathy and understanding.
Not, yeah, it lets you open your mind a little bit more.
Yeah, because
you don't become fixated on one thing.
Yeah, that's it. That's the difference between us and just the general researchers.
Yeah.
They're coming from an area where they're trying to find evidence that these things exist. We're coming from an area where we've seen it, so we know it exists. We know that. It doesn't matter to us about that. It's the 1,000 questions that you have. It's more about the understanding of it. So I'm always going to clash with people, I think, where people think, well, oh, she's done this or she's done that. They have to understand that I'm not a researcher. I'm a bloody witness. I'm no different to everybody else out there.
No, the difference is what you'd call the researcher is out to try and prove whether it exists or not. Yes. We know it exists.
Exactly that.
We just want to know what it is.
What it is, why it's there, and why me.
Yeah, and why me? Because
why me?
For years, I felt embarrassed. Completely embarrassed.
Yeah, I did.
You know, I felt like I've been violated. And that's the only way of saying it. I felt like I've been almost like what it must be like to be raped. That's what it felt like.
It's a taking of not only your thoughts, but it takes a piece of you, and it takes. I think we're all trying to find that piece and take it back. Mm-hmm. It's as if something gets into your mind and can just knows everything about you, and that was scary for me growing up. Because I didn't know everything about myself. So the idea that something else could and could just flick in and out at will. As I told you, I thought I was mad. I honestly believed that I was mad. And I couldn't understand why nobody else was experiencing what now I know completely different, that there's hundreds and hundreds of us.
Yeah, but in the 70s and 80s, nobody was talking. Full stop.
You were not. It's very strange. I find it very serendipitous that you had your experience way down south, and now you're in an area where we've now discovered there's a bunch of witnesses.
It's a hot spot. It's
definitely a hot spot, because it was only on doing the map that I realised there were so many people in that area that had an experience that were very interested, and they didn't know why they were interested. Mm-hmm. When you put them all together on the members map, it was like if you look at the northeast on the members map, there's so many, and it's that coast to coast route. But it's like the pinwheel, isn't it? If you stick a pin right in the middle, you go anywhere you want and find a decent direction. But you'll also find ancient ground. Anywhere.
Oh yeah, very much so.
That you will find ancient ground. And you were talking about where there was tunnels. You mentioned World War II tunnels, was it? An area where these tunnels I found in my research, that's where we kind of the canine cryptids, and I think it might be that's going on at Epping. I think you've got
there's supposed to be caves in Epping. In Epping Forest, but I've never found any evidence for it.
Yeah, you're not far off the Thames. I know some people will say, well, we are far off the Thames. There's tributaries that come off the Thames. Yeah. So you could tap into the Thames really, really easy if you wanted to. And I would imagine that there is cave systems down below. Because they're everywhere in the UK. Yeah, it's just knowing where they are and whether you're brave enough to. I'm not brave enough to go down in a cave.
No, I don't know. I don't like being enclosed.
No, I can't do that. That's not for me. But there are cavers out there who are looking and trying to find evidence, because it's just an untapped area that we've not looked into. And if our ground's ancient, then below us is far more ancient, isn't it? So even if it's on a spiritual or an energy level, going underground makes perfect sense, because
Very much so. Very, very much
it
so.
becomes the source, doesn't it? So I think there are people out there. Caves scare me. I think it's the idea of not knowing what's beyond the darkness. I've never got over that, that kind of scare me. But I've surprised myself a lot in the last 2 years that I've kind of overcome that fear, and I've gone to the place where I think, no, I'm going to get, but no, not caves. Caves are not for me.
Anyway, let's go back to this area 2 again, and you can have
Yeah.
the most recent experience, which is only a month or so ago, maybe two months ago. And it started off with us just walking around very early in the morning, because I wanted that nice yellow light, because we do a lot of photography. And as we're walking off, not into the cryptid area, as I call it, or the church, as I call it, because that's what it's like. It's like a church.
It feels like, yeah.
We went off in the other bit. And at the top of this track that we're walking along, there's a sort of a small holding area. And they've got a couple of guard dogs who are absolutely mad, manic, vicious, brutal Alsatians, who launch themselves at the chain link fence if anyone goes near. And as we're walking up there, Julie's taking photos of mushrooms or something. And I hear from that area up the top, now, can I get this right? I can't get it deep enough. But it really was. Just 2 of them. And I was wondering, that's too deep for dogs.
Yeah.
And then the dogs started up. They were launching it. Oh, they were going mental. So we walked up there because that's where the path went. There was nothing to be seen, no tracks, no smells, dogs going mental. As we're going past, they're charging the fence at us. So, and then as we passed, they just went quiet again. Nothing around, no feelings, nothing, except for these 2 bark growls, as I say. And they were very deep and they went through you.
Yeah.
So we walked around, and then I thought, right, as we're here, I'm going to go and have a look at the church, which is a mass of arches. And it's an absolute massive, if you've seen the video at all, it's a massive arches. And some of the arches are about 15, 20 feet up, of double trees, triple trees bent over. And it's absolutely beautiful. I love the area. It's got a lovely feel to it. There's also sort of sticks on the ground, parallel sticks on the ground, and all sorts. I never touch anything. Whenever I go in these, I never touch. So I was doing my usual. I was walking around this, taking photographs, because I had a video, but I wanted good photos of it. And then from absolutely nowhere, ka-dump, next to me, and there's this piece of rotting wood, which, if you see the image on the video or I've sent you, fits in your hand.
Yeah.
It must have come in at a high angle to go bonk, because it didn't bounce. It just went donk. So I looked around, picked it up, and at that moment, someone in a very light blue shirt walked up the path, maybe 25, 30 yards away from me. Didn't see us because we were in the woods, but he just walked straight up this path. So I was always wondering, ever since, was that a warning for me to say somebody's coming?
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that.
Because it's not a bad feeling area. Now, on this occasion, it did feel like I was being watched.
Yeah.
But not that get out of here or else something bad's going to happen to you. It was just, I'm being watched.
Yeah.
And then this came in. I seem to have a nice rapport with this area, and if you do come to the northeast, I'd like you to see this. You should be able to get there.
The northeast. I'm going to do everything I can to get there in spring, weather permitting. As soon as the weather breaks, I will be up there, because I want to get up there. It's been calling me for a long time, and I honestly believe that it's something to do. You think I pronounce it wrong, but the dwarf, as they call it, the Simonside Hills, the
Durga.
That's the one. That is as old as time, that story.
Yep.
And it's always interested me. People who know me know that I have this kind of interest in the pics. the early Brits, because they were herbsmiths like myself, and they could take out an entire village with one root of a plant in the water. So they were these incredibly clever people that work with herbs. And I feel very drawn to that area for some reason. There's lots of stories of the brown boys, the boggarts, these little dark fae, as we understand them. And I've always felt drawn to the area there. And we in Scotland for some reason. I need to get my feet on the ground up there. But it has a dark connotation as well, I'm going to be honest. It's not all fairy loveliness. And
No.
not mean as, you know, Walt Disney fairies. There's a darkness to it. And you explained something to me before, and I've never heard it before, about the dark elves and the light elves in the Nordic. I didn't know that. I'd never heard that before. And I've got relatives that are from Iceland and Norway and Sweden. It was Salford's a dock town, so you know.
Right.
But
So
heard that.
I'm not going to go into the frost giants and all the others, but the light elves and dark elves.
It's interesting to me because I'd never heard that before, and I thought that makes perfect sense. I can kind of understand it now. You've got this kind of dark and light of everything, you know. And Northumberland to me has that kind of feeling. So I'm dying to get up there. Can't wait to get up there. I just can't afford an hotel.
if you get 5 hours or so to yourself, get yourself a copy of Alan Garner's The Weird Stone of Brisingamen.
Right.
You'll love it.
Chris.
Sorry?
The
Weird Stone.
Yeah.
Of Brisingamen. Brisinghamun. Brisingamen.
Got it.
Alan Garner.
Down in me.
It's a kid's book. Gave me bloody nightmares when I read it when I was about 6.
No.
So,
I'll have a read. I'll have a read. There'll be something in there for me, or it wouldn't have been mentioned.
Yeah, it's all about dark elves and all sorts of very interesting things. You're
I
like
would have lapped that up as a kid.
and Alderney Edge and the whole lot of it.
Alderley Edge.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what you said? Oh, synchronicity at play. That's a story for another night. But Alderley Edge pops up quite often for me. Because I said to you before, didn't I, with it, I keep getting the Lilith and family names and things like that. You get these weird synchronicities in your life, and I've learned to pay heed to them. Alderley Edge is one of the areas in the north that was kind of our first foraging route, really, that we can say early man was foraging on. And I wonder if they still use that route in some way, because the sightings kind of follow along those. Even the old Roman roads seem to fit in, and the Romans built those on our original.
There's some tracks which were used, yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean that's yet another. I mean, as you've said before in the past, I never stop researching.
No.
Roman ghosts is one of my things. So, and you'd be surprised how many there are.
I know there are a few of them, because Thetford jumps to mind instantly. Epping Forest is another area where you hear of the Romans. York, Yorkshire. There's lots and lots of these same areas, really, where this phenomenon, whether it be dogmen, Bigfoot, paranormal, Roman ghosts, it all seems to these little areas where you get all of the phenomena happening in the same place.
There's concentrations. There are concentrations.
That's the correct word. Yeah, concentrations of. I don't know if it's the area attracts it in or it puts it out. I don't know. You know.
Questions.
Yeah, questions.
I've been studying the paranormal since we'll say 15, which is 45 years ago. Yes, I'm 60. Disgusting.
Well, you would never guess. I would not.
No, I know everyone says that. I've been studying it for that long. And when I was 15, 16, I thought I knew everything. Yeah. I knew everything. I wrote articles on this, that, and the other, and how it all worked and how it all interplayed with each other. I've come to one mind-bogglingly simple reasoning behind everything now. Shit happens.
Shit happens. That's a good way of looking at it.
Because as soon as you think you've worked it out, you find something that doesn't fit.
It just witches on you,
so,
doesn't it? Yeah.
Everybody says, well, what do you think about this? And I will answer now, shit
It
happens.
happens. Yeah, you're right. That might be a good point for us to end tonight on, if that's okay.
No
But
problem.
we are going to pick it up again because you've too many stories for me to just only get this amount of record time with you. Yeah. But if it's okay with you, I'm going to sign off with everyone. You stay on, and I'm just going to say good night to everyone. So thank you all for joining me. I will definitely be bringing Chris back on. And Chris has kindly allowed that when we have the conference in May, he's going to do a Q&A with me, and I will play it all for you on the day. So if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask him, get them into me now in email or pop them underneath in the comments, and then I can give them to Chris and we'll chat about it on the day. But until next time, there is more of this to come. Good night.